Okay, I think we're live now.
I think so.
There we go. Hello, everyone. It's Friday. Choose my voice today. Got the whole, cold thing from my kids. Got the fever. Have the great cough. Every time I cough, I feel like my head's going to explode type thing. So it's all good. It's beautiful.
Everything is beautiful.
Friday.
It's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, but we'll be fine. We got lots to talk about. And then including the story I just wrote, which is just insane. So I think you guys will have fun talking about that too, which is really crazy.
No.
Sorry?
I said, no, I'm not going to talk about that one.
We're boycotting it. We're boycotting.
Why are we boycotting that one? It's real interesting.
Yeah, it's really not real.
What? Oh, you don't know who I'm talking to. All right, we'll get on to the show here. Ready? It's the 1st of April.
Make sure send another invite to Ty. Sometimes he has difficulty getting invites.
I will.
Happy April Fools, guys. Has anybody got you yet?
No, I'm immune. I'm immune. My approach towards April Fool's Day is do not believe anything anybody says ever.
Which is how different than your usual approach, Mike, just like in general.
That's your standard approach.
Well, no. I'm more
criticism.
trusting on the 364 other days, but today, you tell me the sky is blue, I'm saying it's red. We're on Mars.
One of my friends 2 years ago decided April Fool's was a great day to announce that she was pregnant, and I actually was like, this is not a funny joke.
Right.
But are you actually pregnant? And I'm like, couldn't you wait a day? Like one day, and it wouldn't have been April Fool's.
That's awesome.
Yeah, bold move.
It is, because no one's going to believe. That's wonderful. That's really turning April Fool's on its side. I like that.
Somebody I worked with, they were adopting a baby, or not a baby, but from Guatemala, like a 3 or 4 year old child.
Right.
And the party that we were getting together to celebrate this was on April 1st. So everybody gave little gifts, and unbeknownst to us, one of the friends had given them a fake lottery card.
Oh no.
Scratch-off lottery card. And they scratched off, and the card said that they had won $10,000. And they bought it and thought it was serious, and then he almost, had to wait until afterward, after everybody had celebrated, to tell them that it was fake.
That's just evil.
He thought that they would realize that it was that day.
Right.
That they would just take it as the joke. But the thing was, they owed a certain amount of money, or they needed a certain amount of money to do all the work to get their kid.
Right.
And they thought, oh my God, it's going to be all paid for because of this lottery ticket, and then ended up.
Oof.
Yeah.
Rough. That's a pretty bad April Fool's.
Yeah, at that point, the person who gave him that better just hand him $10,000, else he'll never be talked to again.
Guilt money. There you go.
You have to. That's really bad. Yeah. Those fake lottery things. That's evil stuff in general. Yeah. I'm not into April Fools. I've never been into it. I think that the articles are ridiculous, and I've read a lot. What? I read one a few years ago. Yes, I did, but not. All right, let's. The one I had was really good though. The one I did a couple years ago was that I had the cities were going to turn all their mascots. Every mascot was going to be the same. Like if you were basically like a college. So the Eagles would be your hockey team, your baseball team, and your football team. So it would be the Philadelphia Phillies baseball, Philadelphia Phillies hockey, Philadelphia Phillies. And I'm like, this is just to bring. This is a good thing for cities in general. It brings team spirit, like a college. You go to a college and all of your teams are the same. So I put this out there, and I got a lot of people who were like, "What the heck? That's crazy." I said, "I know it's nuts, but hey, that was fun."
Did anybody get mad at you?
Oh yeah, some people got mad at me.
A world of suckers.
Oh yeah, no, but since then I've just stayed away from it.
World of suckers. That was so kind.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, just most people.
Well, a good April Fool's just has to be just close enough to possible. That's just maybe.
Most people don't even realize that it is that particular day until somebody pulls a stupid.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, damn, it's April 1st.
My brother's birthday, so I always remember it.
Hey, I have a cousin whose birthday today too. But yeah, like Ty, like if there was like to be one mascot for the Boston area, would it be the Patriots or the Bruins or the Red Sox? Like, would you have like like the Red Sox hockey team, the Red Sox? That's where I think it should go.
Celtic. It's gotta be Celtic.
I mean, the people are the Celtics mascot. Like, that much is true.
Yeah.
But the city itself, probably Red Sox. If I had to guess.
It'd have to be Red Sox if they went to one. Yeah, I think so. That makes sense.
Yeah, the mascot of the Celtics is Red Auerbach's corpse. Just taxidermied or something.
Oh, that's nice.
Really nice.
With a lit cigar stuck in his mouth. Just kidding. I'm a Celtics fan, so I hold Red Auerbach in much respect. But
that's fantastic. My son is trying to design a mascot for the Flyers because every year when I go to the All-Star game, there's a mascot game played, and the Flyers are one of the 4 teams that doesn't have a mascot at all. Or I think there's 6 teams maybe, but that's about it.
You mean the mascot isn't the guy who jumped into the penalty box and tackled Ty Domi?
No, or the dancing guy.
The dancing guy would be a fantastic mascot.
It would be really funny if there was just a guy, like all these other these like giant tigers, and then there's just a guy in an orange shirt who's the mascot.
I think that's far more intimidating from a Philadelphia fan. That's way more intimidating than a mascot.
Yeah.
Isn't the sign guy the mascot in a way?
No, he's he's an old one. But like they have a dancing guy, like they have like the classic dancing Homer episode of The Simpsons. Flyers have a dancing guy. There's nothing funnier than a fat guy dancing. And that's the whole thing. So they have one of those, and he's hired by the team now. It's pretty funny, that whole story.
There's some injury news that's coming in. So
we'll get to that. That sounds exciting and fun.
Not if you're an Islanders fan.
Let's start the show. We'll go with Mike, then
Ty, then Jillian.
Ty, then Jillian, like that. Okay, you got it. Sounds good. You guys have met Ty and Jillian? You guys have met each other?
Yes.
They were on our webcast last Friday.
I wasn't sure. Yeah. Okay. Cool. You're in the same
Boston.
area. You're both up in Boston.
Yeah, we have a Boston quota. Pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Okay, here goes. Hopefully my voice hangs out for this one. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, April 1st, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Ty Anderson.
I'm Jillian Fisher.
And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings of the hockey world. And today, we're going to start with the fact that Duncan Keith's hearing is slated for 4 p.m. today. And, I mean, there's not much to talk about with this, except for, I haven't gotten Ty's opinion on this. We did talk to Jillian the other day, but I'm of the opinion that there has to be at least 2 playoff games involved in this. I think justifiably they could go for the whole first round. I don't think they'll do that, but what do you think, Ty?
I mean, this was dirty as hell. Yeah. I mean, there's no way around this, and this is the second time it's happened. The first instance with Jeff Carter. Now it's with Charlie Coyle. I mean, this is just bad. You can't have guys doing this. I don't care if he's a star player. I don't care if he's a top-pairing defenseman. There has to be some sort of punishment. There has to be some sort of ramifications for these kind of plays. So I agree with you. I think it should be at least the rest of the regular season and 2 or 3 playoff games. It'll be interesting to see if that actually pans out like that, though, because we all know the NHL. We all know how they work.
Yeah.
Star players and third and fourth liners are treated differently, unfortunately.
Yep.
And so I'm curious to see how this plays out. But if they lose him for an extended period of time in the playoffs, I think they are in some serious trouble, given everything else going on. But I agree. You can't let this one slide. Second time this has happened, too. I mean, there's no way you can let it slide.
Go ahead, Jillian.
Would you consider him a dirty player, Ty, at this point?
No, but you can't have a guy swinging a stick at people's faces 2 times in the matter of, 3 years? I think that's really what it comes down to. Like, intentionally swinging a stick at people's faces.
Right, exactly.
But the league technically does not consider him a repeat offender.
Right, they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the thing, and as you said, Ty, and one of my pet peeves when it comes to the NHL, going back to Wayne Gretzky in 1993 and now Alex Ovechkin in recent history, is the stars get away with murder because they're stars. Wayne Gretzky should have been penalized in Game 6 of the Western Conference Final for high-sticking Doug Gilmour in the face. He drew blood. He should have been called for a penalty. He wasn't called for a penalty because he's Wayne Gretzky. Alex Ovechkin has done a number of things over the last few years that were that would have drawn suspensions for that third or fourth liner or for some defenseman, but because it's Alex Ovechkin, he doesn't get penalized. Now, Duncan Keith, is a Norris Trophy caliber defenseman, but this is high profile enough that I think he's probably going to miss at least one playoff game, maybe two. And for the Blackhawks, with the questionable status of Corey Crawford, Joel Quenneville yesterday said it was hopefully he would be ready for the start of the playoffs, but they're not sure. Yeah. If they face a Chicago or they face a St. Louis or a Dallas in the first round and they get down early, it could be an early exit for the Blackhawks, and not many people thought that was possible.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%, and we talked about it. I did an interesting blog yesterday where I asked people who they thought the most playoff-ready teams were in the NHL, and the poll results that came in were fascinating. Chicago was way down the list as far as what people thought were playoff ready right now. And this is a team that has looked like this before at the end of the season, has turned it on all of a sudden. So it's kind of surprising, but obviously they went with the teams that are hot right now, but yeah, Chicago's way down the list. I agree that there seems to be a lot of chinks in this armor right now, and this doesn't help at all. I mean, Duncan Keith is usually important to them. He is, you're losing your top defenseman or one of your top two defensemen is the hardest thing you have to deal with. I mean, that's why Strawman is such a big deal in Tampa. It's a bigger deal than you think. But let's get on to the big story, which is, of course, rats. We're going to talk rats for a while. It's a shame our buddy Josh isn't here today. We have photographs of Josh.
We don't want to waste a hockey podcast or webcast to talk about Donald Trump. Come on.
Well played.
Yes, but I think that but now last night the Florida Panthers, and I've got a conspiracy theory on top of conspiracy theories here. They were playing in a game and they gave out 10,000 rats. And for those of you who don't remember the history of the Panthers and the rat throwing, which goes back to the 90s, I think. Was it the 90s?
It was the 95-96 season.
Yeah. And that's when they were in a building that had rats. Now they're in a nice building, which we assume doesn't have rats, but but still they gave out 10,000 rats last night, and of course that's always a good idea. They should have known right away that was going to work out really well for them to give away all those rats, and they got penalized twice during the game for delay of game penalties. Let's start, Mike, with you on this one. Justified the penalties, first of all. Do you think that these penalties should occur? I mean, Yager brought up some really interesting points in his quotes.
There's no rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a rule, but Yager said, if I'm another team now, I'm going to put people in the crowd and throw rats onto the ice. And
yeah, well, I mean,
I like Yager's conspiracy theory.
I mean, yeah, the conspiracy theory is interesting, but I mean, yes, it is a rule, and if fans throw beer on the ice or hot dogs or waffles as they did in Toronto a few years ago, then the home team should and will get penalized. And the Florida Panthers fans should be wise of the fact that they're hurting their team doing this. They could do that back in the 90s when I don't think there was a rule, and they would just go out and sweep up all these rats after every goal when they threw it. But then it became ridiculous. It's like it extended the game to 3.5 hours, and nobody wants that. So save it till the end of the game. It's one thing if it's the octopus in Detroit and they throw it on as a tradition at the beginning of the game, but it's another when you're throwing 1,000 rats on the ice. So I think
the NHL intervened with the octopus too. They did, in the 2008 season they banned it, and the fans, the community really had a severe backlash.
They went nuts
because there was the octopus parts getting on the ice, and they just had to adapt it. The guy, I forget his name, who was the one, I guess the person who's in charge of the maintenance. Now he just has to do it where the Zambonis enter, so that way it doesn't get on the ice. So even then, the NHL will still find something, even when you're doing it as a long-standing tradition.
This is the difference between NHL original six squads and non-original six squads. Original six squads throw real live creatures. Newer teams throw plants. Like if they were throwing actual rats on the ice, then we have something. But that's.
Oh, I mean, Nashville used to throw a carp on the ice?
Yeah,
a
carp. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Well, the best is the Avalanche fans, because it only happened one season. It was the 95-96 season, and it was the 96 playoffs. And then in 1997, the NHL made that new rule. So it didn't last very long. But the best is in the Stanley Cup Finals, the Avalanche fans threw the rat traps on the ice in the Avalanche home game in the finals, which I just thought was a great comeback to that.
And dangerous.
A little bit dangerous, a little bit.
Major League Baseball learned their lesson, because I remember there was, I think it was in Chicago, not disco night, but there was, it was either the White Sox or the Cubs, where they had given out promotional seat cushions, and there was a controversial call, and you saw basically 5,000 seat cushions being flung like frisbees out onto the field. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Chicago. If it wasn't, I'm wrong. But I do remember, and I know that there's been some incidents with promotional, little bats, which was dangerous. They now give
Philadelphia, they gave away bats. Yeah, that was really.
They now give those things out as you leave rather than as you come in. You're just giving everybody weapons. But you're not going to hurt anybody with a plastic rat. It's just annoying. And the thing is, the fans have to realize in the playoffs, when everything is magnified, you could cost your team. You could cost your team, the ownership would be more than mortified if they cost them gates at home. But you could cost your team a game, and that's the worst possible thing.
I also think so. I disagreed a little bit with what Yager had to say, and he says that you can't penalize the organization for trying to sell the game. The people who were interviewing him were saying, well, you kind of look at the organization. They handed out 10,000 of these as fans entered the stadium. Maybe they shouldn't have done that. Right. And Yager's response was, well, you can't penalize them for trying to sell the game. Well, I don't know. I mean, that doesn't sound pretty accurate. I don't think when you get a drink of water, a bottled water at these games, they take the freaking cap off. Right. So, I mean, who was thinking? And why this game? Was it because it was the New Jersey Devils when last time they threw rats in 2012 was against the New Jersey Devils? It's a convenient game, too. And they have accused Devils fans in the past of throwing them on the ice, and as a Panthers fan. So this isn't the first time that the organization has accused Devils fans of doing this. If I'm a fan in the stands, I mean, and somebody tells me not to do something, sometimes I'm a little bit rowdy and I may want to throw some on the ice. I can believe that the fans continue to throw them. But seeing the media attention that comes to it, I don't think the fans would do it again. And I think it's
controllable. I mean, Ty, what are your thoughts on this?
This bums me out because the league doesn't have fun anymore. I mean, aren't there so many bigger issues than fans? The thing that pissed me off was, the team can't control it. The team can flash a thing saying, "Hey, please don't do this."
They did.
But people are still going to do it. Right. I mean, we know this living in Boston. People can say, "Hey, don't throw stuff on the ice," and people are still going to do it. It's just, I think, especially so if you say, "Hey, don't do this," it's almost all right, I'm going to do it anyways. Right. So I think penalizing the team is I'm never.
How do you control it? Because I will agree with the one stance that it does cause a large delay. I mean. Yeah. How do you control? I think that if you tell the fans, maybe do it as a part of the beginning ceremony, like the octopus. Make it like the octopus, and make it just a playoff thing. Because how do you control it? I get what you're saying. The NHL sounds like they're not having any fun, and I'm all about fan traditions. But how do you control it then?
Well, this is funny because I think in the playoffs, I don't think they're going to enforce this in the playoffs because the Bruins. Yeah. It was Game 7 against Toronto. And the Bruins came within 1 goal. People started throwing their gold towels on the ice because they were so amped.
Yeah.
And then so they come out and they clean it all up. And then they say, please not throw stuff on the ice. The Bruins tie the game 4-4. It happens again. Almost triple the amount of towels this time. And they didn't call anything. So I don't think they're going to enforce it in the playoffs personally. I just think it's I don't know. I wonder what changes, but I don't think it's going to get legitimately enforced. Just a weird feeling.
Yeah. I had almost forgotten about that series, Ty.
Yeah, no, I'm never gonna let you forget about that. Don't worry.
You're playing all the hits today, Mike. You're getting back to Gretzky and all, and this, yeah.
I think the NHL also sometimes does not do a great job in respecting local traditions. I mean, they had that issue with the Winter Classic with Rene Rencourt and him singing, and I get that he didn't sing, and people were like, well, he didn't sing at the Winter Classic before that. but it was somebody who was originally from the Massachusetts-Boston area.
Yeah, I hate it. Oh man, I hate that friggin' show too. That might. Sorry.
So the NHL doesn't always have the best.
Yeah.
I think that might be part of the reason why you'd see fans continue to throw it as not in a protest. That's a bit dramatic, but in a sense that like the game is for the fans, and I think sometimes the NHL forgets that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been of the belief that so long as you're not hurting anybody, if you pay the prices you pay to get in these buildings, do whatever the hell you want. Boo whatever you want, cheer whatever you want, I don't care. But, no, and it does come back to, I think, the NHL having this disconnect from their fans that speaks to a larger scale, of course. But, yeah, no, I mean, that's a real thing. I think if you're a hockey fan in Florida and this is your first time being back around the team, you remember the Rats in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like this sort of, it harkens back to your history. Your history's only, 25 years old? So to be a part of that, I think, and to remember, hey, remember when we did this? And the team is the best it's been since that era, probably. So you have to, I think, want to join in on that. And the NHL hammering down saying, no, you're gonna, like you said, not protest, but you are going to sort of have a backlash in a way, I think.
What do you think about them blaming the Devils in these conspiracy theories, though?
That I don't buy. I mean, that's like a Montreal-esque storyline, in my opinion. I don't think that's real. That's happening in South Florida.
Very Montreal-esque. I like that. That's a good way of putting it. I mean, anything's possible. Like if it was the Devils and the Flyers, I would definitely buy it. Like I think that there's no question that those fan bases would try something like that. But this is Florida and New Jersey. This is not really the super duper rivalry. Although I will say this, then this might transitions into our next story. They might be doing the Panthers a favor by kicking penalties right now because the Panthers might not want to finish in first. If you start looking at the way this is playing out, I think the second place team in that division might be better off than the first place team and who they're going to end up playing, because basically that how this is playing now is really interesting. The Islanders, like I wrote last night, they have 95 points. They have as many points as the Panthers and Lightning had at 76 games. I mean, the Lightning went on to win last night. Now they have 97, but basically, they're both the Islanders and the Flyers are playing a lot better than the Bruins or the Red Wings. So, that winning the division might not be all it's cracked up to be right now. So maybe this is helping them out in the long run. That's crazy as it sounds.
You get into trouble when you try to pick who you want in the playoffs. And then right now, based on what's going on with the Panthers, and they've run into some injuries lately, I think right now that Gerard Gallant and the leadership on that team is just like, let's just win. Let's get first place in the let's win the Atlantic Division and let the chips fall where they may. They could play Detroit or Philadelphia in the first round of the playoffs, and if they do, if it's Detroit, I think Florida has a pretty good chance. If it's Philadelphia, it'll be a pretty wild series. But yeah, you can't really choose. Just go out and win.
Ty, how do you think this is going to play out in this division? How do you see this playoff playing out now?
It's funny. I see the Bruins sort of collapsing like they did a year ago, but I think that the Detroit Red Wings will out-collapse them. They back in while backing into the playoffs.
Okay, right.
That's just how I look at it. Because I look at Detroit, you can't be a playoff team when you're pulling your goalie as much as they are. I just think that they have zero consistency from their goaltending. And I look at their end of the year schedule: Philly and Wednesday, and then a back-to-back with travel to Boston on the 7th, and then they have the Rangers on the 9th. The Rangers, if they're still playing for something in terms of like home ice advantage, because they want that. I mean, given how dominant they've been at home this year, they want that home ice. So they might have something to play for on that day, especially with the Islanders playing on the Sunday against Philadelphia. So the Islanders and the Penguins, they're both gunning. Pittsburgh's closer, of course, but so I look at that and I just think it's really Boston. Boston during that stretch, while Detroit has Philly, Boston, Rangers, Boston has Carolina, Red Wings, and Senators. So I just think that's an easier schedule. So even if they lose one of those games or two of those games, I got a feeling the Red Wings lose just as many.
Yeah, I mean the next two games though are the tough ones, right? Now you're going out to St. Louis and Chicago, who both have something to play for right now.
And Detroit has back-to-back this weekend. They're at home against Minnesota, which will be tough because Minnesota lost yesterday to Ottawa, and they're still within striking distance. Colorado is still within striking distance. But then they go to Toronto tomorrow night, and if you watch Toronto play in Buffalo last night, which I did live in the arena, Toronto with the call-ups and the demotions that they made, even the most let's just say this. The players that they called up and the players that they sent down made the team significantly worse. And they played like it yesterday. They were outshot, I think, 31-12 at a certain point in that game against Buffalo. So if Detroit can win those win tonight and Saturday, they're in good shape. If they lose tonight to Minnesota, who's a desperate team, then they may catch a break that they're playing the Leafs where their mindset is currently.
But have you watched the Wings over the past month and just said, "Hey, this team looks right"?
Yeah.
No, they look terrible. That's why I predicted them tied. They're the teams that were gonna be out on the outside looking in. I thought Philadelphia, maybe they can't keep the hot streak that they're on right now, but Detroit has been. With the talent level that they have, they just seem completely unemotional. They seem almost in a panic. They've had injury problems, and you said Mrazek and Jimmy Howard has just been a tandem of mediocrity the last month.
It's a guessing game. Howard's had great games, and then he's had garbage games the next night. Yeah. Mrazek the same thing. So I think at this time of the year, you have a goaltender that you stick with, and if you don't, you're screwed. And I think that's kind of where they are right now.
Yeah.
But Tampa's no walk in the park either. It's like that division is really in shambles in some ways. Florida has played better.
The Strawman injury really killed them, Mac.
But even before that, they weren't killing it. They played very well for a while, but they had those 2 losses against Philly and then went on a slide before Strawman got hurt.
Yeah, but he's the defensive pairing with Hedman, and now with him gone, and apparently it's not a season-ending injury. It's a displaced fracture, so it would be maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But he's not going to be back probably for the first round of the playoffs. And if that's the case, depending on the matchup that they have, they could be in trouble. They have enough talent there and goaltending in Ben Bishop, which is difference making. But you need Hedman and Strawman to be that top pairing to eat up 25, 27 minutes a night. And they're not going to have that. And Hedman's, I don't even know who he's paired with right now, but whoever it is, they're not playing together as well as him and Strawman have.
Yeah, they paired it. They started him off with Andre Schuster, which has been bad, but it's not ideal. But one thing I will say though is that since Strawman's gone down, Hedman has really upped his game quite a bit. He's playing with more an offensive purpose. I felt that this year Hedman's been a bit too conservative when it comes to pushing pace the other way, which is something that he's absolutely phenomenal at. But really, with Strawman down, I've seen the offensive side of Hedman take off a bit more than it has for these prior 70 games or whatever it was. So I think you see it in Hedman's game right now that he is putting a bit more pressure on himself to shoulder the load offensively. Whether or not that works, though, in the playoffs versus the end of the regular season is a totally different story, of course. But that's one thing that I think could give you some confidence. It's just the risks in the offensive capabilities that Hedman is sort of showing you again now with Strawman out of action.
And by the way, Ty, John Cooper's doing it again. He's tinkering with Stamkos. He plays him one game on the wing, and then yesterday he moves him back to center, and they lose to Montreal. So I would expect him to be moved back to the wing to the next game. And all this yo-yoing back and forth, when it comes to July, I think will be the determining factor in Stamkos not returning to Tampa.
Yeah, it's true. Guys like their certain positions. Not many players I know that are so elite at their one position are like, yeah, I'll move over to the wing now. It's a weird dynamic. It's very, very rarely you see guys do this. I think Crosby Malkin's like the one exception because of just how dynamic those two are together. It just makes sense at times. So at the same time, I know Stamkos is really committed to just making it work this year and winning this year. But yes, it does come back, I think, around come July 1st when these teams are talking, and he says, "Listen, I want to play right wing. I'm a center. I'm one of the top 5 centers in this league, and I'm a center. So I don't know."
don't get me wrong. Stamkos will not say a word. He will not complain. He's a team leader, and he will do what the coach tells him to do. But when it's his time and the ball is in his court to make a decision, this will be factored in. That's all I'm saying. He will do whatever he needs. He'll play defense if this team needs him to play defense to win a series.
Brian Boyle's done that.
Yeah. Now, a couple really interesting goalie stats today that I thought were kind of fun. Mike Condon, Massachusetts' own Mike Condon, became the first U.S.-born goaltender in the 98 years of the Montreal Canadiens to ever play for the Canadiens and record a shutout. How about that? That's really bizarre.
Woo-hoo.
Wow.
I wonder if they hated that a little bit.
98 years. They've never had a shutout by an American goalie for the Montreal Canadiens.
Does that mean 98 years? Does that mean that I have to deal with another centennial celebration in 2 years? Because I really don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
The last one lasted for 2.5 years. It made no sense.
Right. Maybe there is another centennial year, but that was the stat I saw.
They had their centennial year already.
Yeah, so what is this about? Why is it in 98 years? They've been around longer than 98 years, right?
Right, but weren't they like the Montreal something or something?
They were like maybe the Montreal Maroons or something like that, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's the Maroons, but I think there was a different name before they became the Canadiens. So I don't know. I know that the Maple Leafs were the Toronto St. Patrick's for a while, but it's the franchise is 100 years old next year, so that's what they're celebrating.
I was hoping, not to get on a Leafs thing, I was really hoping that they were going to have a St. Patrick's sort of homage in their new logo in New Jersey. I was really hoping for that.
They are. I know one thing for the centennial celebration, they are going to wear throughout the year a number of different jerseys throughout their history. So I would think that the St. Patrick's jersey that they have worn before is going to make an appearance.
It's a cool jersey.
Yeah, very cool. It's complete departure from everything. It's a green jersey with St. Pat's or St. Patrick's on the front. So
yeah,
I'm gonna buy one jersey just to whip it out on St. Patty's Day. It's the only time I could wear something Toronto related in Buffalo without getting killed.
Well, they're the only team that can actually wear a St. Patrick's Day jersey and get away with it. Like I really have a problem with all the green jerseys that teams wear in warm-ups and stuff like that. I
sort of the Dallas Stars, because they're like, hey, that's our jersey.
Yeah, they're the one. Here's another. Your next. This is number 2 of 3 interesting goalie things today. Number 2 is Ray Emery has signed a contract with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yes.
Can't play in the playoffs though.
Yep. This is going to be crazy. He can't play in the playoffs, right? But he can play for the rest of the year. I think he's just there for emergency cases. I don't think you're going to see him play unless Steve Mason breaks a leg. But yeah, he's
so silly. I really do.
What was that, Ty?
I just think it's silly.
Yes.
Play the rookie.
Yeah.
Give him the game.
But would you play the rookie when you have that? Would you throw him in there right now? Would this be a good time to throw him in? You think?
I mean, I think it's better than throwing Ray Emery in there. If it really comes push to shove and you have to give a start to another guy, I would give it to the rookie over Emery. Because what does that do for you now?
Is that it's really great experience. Nothing like getting thrown in that. And if they do well, that if he does well, that shows some hope. But I just I don't know if I would do it. I don't know if I would like that to be done personally.
That's potentially emotionally scarring to put Anthony Stolarz in a situation where the playoff fate of the Flyers rests on his 20 or 21-year-old shoulders. And him having a game. I remember Marty Baron when he started with the Sabres, and this was not like near the end of the season where the playoff hopes rested on them, but his first NHL start was in Pittsburgh, and I think he let in 8 goals against the Penguins and Mario Lemieux. You don't want the fate of the team resting on a rookie goaltender's shoulders, no matter how well he's played in the American Hockey League. I think Emery is there basically if Philly gets blown out in a game, or maybe even if they're leading 4-0 or something like that in the second period, and they want to get Mason a little rest with back-to-back games, that Emery can go in there and, being the veteran that he is, he can handle that situation.
Well, Mason is playing hurt right now too.
Yes.
And that's another thing that and that's a big issue right now. And the Flyers, I mean, if Neuwirth was at all healthy, Mason wouldn't be playing right now. So
I look at the schedule for the Flyers. They have that Wednesday game against Detroit. If you win that, the next night you're playing Toronto. Put the rookie in for that game, because that's basically going against another AHL team. Like, all the turnover they've had.
Emery may play that game because he'll be facing half the Toronto Marlies who he played with in December, so he'd be used to those guys how they shoot.
They're not going to play anybody until they make the playoffs. I'll tell you that. Mason's going to play that. He's going to play it for them until they're in the playoffs. And I agree with you that because the Flyers have 3 sets of back-to-back games left on their schedule. They play Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, they are definitely. I mean, you would think that if they need to have a something from another goalie, and it's not unprecedented that a rookie goalie comes in and does really well. Like it's not crazy, but this is the one thing. I was having an interesting discussion with Kevin Allen yesterday because we were talking about they had Ron Hextall on their podcast, and and he said that the interesting thing about Hextall, they always heard Hextall is this one kind of like fiery competitor and like just complete like crazy person as a goalie, and then completely the opposite, relaxed. But you know what? And honestly, as a GM, there's one thing that Hextall carried from as playing time to now, and that's like an incredible stubbornness. Like the stubborn part of it, he might have been crazy back then and look refined now, but his stubbornness. I mean, this is why Shane Gostisbehere didn't play for the first half of the year. This is why Stolarz doesn't want to put Stolarz in goal. He's really stubborn about this idea of rushing people. It's like
you think it's a bad stubborn? I mean, stubbornness is usually not a good thing, but do you think it's bad because Gostisbehere? I mean, look at him now. I mean, he's done so well. I mean, so it's something he's done something right with that.
Well, no, and Gostisbehere, I mean, to Hex's credit, I mean, or to his defense at least, Gostisbehere wasn't killing it in the AHL. Like he was playing well in the AHL, but he's one of those players that plays better with better players, and they didn't see that necessarily right away. So it wasn't like he was playing so well in the AHL that you had to bring him up, is what he was saying. He was okay, but they had no idea he would transition as well. And a lot of this is the fact that the Flyers have rushed people in the past, and this is a little bit of a backlash to that. The idea of like we are not going to fall for that again. We're not going to screw up players again. We're not going to fire coaches too quickly. We're not going to do anything too fast. We're going to take our time. But yeah, so as Hextall is still incredibly stubborn, and that is one thing maybe you don't see it the same way, but it does. If you came into his crease when he was a goalie, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get your knee hacked off, and now he's basically, if you tell him that he should rush a defenseman, it's basically the same reaction you get.
Which is interesting with how stubborn he is about not wanting to rush people. And in this situation, you would think this is a great time to get somebody in there, especially with Mason, with all these back-to-back games with Mason. And he set the precedent at the beginning of the season for the fans to kind of not lower their expectations, but realize that they weren't running for the cup this year. They weren't going to be trying to make it that far. So it's interesting to see that with how stubborn he is and how he's really trying to. I don't mean stubborn in a bad way. With how he doesn't want to rush anybody. You would think that maybe this is a great time to get some experience, but I do see the other side where it could really scar somebody with the season potentially on the line. But he set the standard that the fans shouldn't be looking. The goal is always to make it as far as we can, but set the standard that we're not at that level.
Well, for me, it just comes back to the overall point that you have a guy here who was a sub 900 goaltender in the AHL and in Germany this year, and you're looking at him. And I know Ray Emery's been the successful reclamation project, at least 3 times now, I think, in his career.
Oh yeah.
So you can't doubt him in that regard. But I look at him, and this was a goaltender. He was sub 900 in the AHL. He was sub 900 in the German league this year. And now you're saying this is a guy we trust the NHL level. And I just think that's it's a weird thing to say, I think, to your kid. And I think he understands it. Stolarz probably understands it in a way. But I think at the same time, I look at the schedule, and I think you should find a way to get him in. Because Mason will break down. If he plays all these back-to-backs, he will break down. There's no doubt about it. Every goaltender would.
Well, the funny thing is, Ty, they do have a goalie in Lehigh who has NHL experience in Jason LaBarbera, but if you look at him, he's lost 5 of his last 6 games, and his save percentage is under 900. So they didn't even consider calling him up. They called up Stolarz as the emergency guy, and now they've gone out and signed Emery. So it shows that they really don't have any confidence that LaBarbera could be an answer. So I mean, that's the state that they're in right now.
It was kind of surprising, I would just say. That it was like, that they didn't go to LaBarbera right away was kind of surprising to me. That, and Emery, I mean, he's been reclaimed. He has had bad success, but the Flyers, there's a feeling among the Flyers organization that he's a gamer, You put him in the right situation, he's going to win. He's going to find a way to win. I mean, that's risky. There has been a shift in and like you said, Jill, you're right about the fact that they had the lower expectations of this year, and this wasn't supposed to be a playoff year even or anything like that, right? But at the end of the day, now it is. Now it is supposed to be a playoff year, and you're seeing the competitiveness come out in everybody. Sorry, am I boring you? We're seeing the competitiveness come out in all these players now, and Hextall really wanting to make something happen. And now also, the stories coming out that I've known for a long time that Ed Snyder's really not doing well, and that the Flyers are looking at like, oh, maybe we should try to make a run for this thing because Ed Snyder might not make it again for another year. This is the guy who's been the owner for 50 years. So, I think there's definitely a little bit of a change in dynamic there. I'm curious, and Neuwirth was playing so well, and they had two really solid goalies for most of the year. So now we're looking at, I think that they really are worried. They do want to have somebody with experience in there. I'm surprised that they're going back to Emery, but they loved him, and Emery and Mason got along really well too. That's another thing that plays into this too. Emery is a great team player. He was a great backup for Chicago when they won the Cup. He's a great team guy now, and he's really grown in similar ways to Yager over the years. So he's become a lot better citizen. So I don't know. I think that
the Flyers in general are an interesting case. They're the team that will win in a shootout against the Caps, but then they'll lose to the Senators. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. They always play bad. I mean, the Senators coming in this weekend, is a disastrous type situation for them. It would be better if the Bruins or somebody else was coming in because they just have a tough time against teams that aren't in the playoffs in general. So, I don't know. I mean, they're playing very well.
They did beat Winnipeg, so
they found a way, but they barely beat Winnipeg. That was really a risk. It was a really close game. They found a way to barely beat Toronto last time too, up in Toronto. But that took overtime as well. So Toronto next week is one in hand should be a no-brainer. You got to make the playoffs. All you got to do is beat the Leafs. But I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Listen though, if they get that second wild card, and they have Washington, that is a series that I think will be a lot closer than people want to give credit for. I mean, that is everything I want of a first-round series.
Yeah.
That's like the ideal. I agree. That is an ideal first round.
Ty, the gag reflex of the Capitals will be tested in that series.
Absolutely. And that's listen, and this Flyers team, like, I know it doesn't have the same magic sort of around it, I guess, in a way, but this team does remind me of that 2010 team that was just they got in by any means necessary, and they were a nightmare for everyone they played.
Well,
They never gave up.
Yeah.
Well, Detroit's going to sign Ole Jokinen on a PTO.
Wait till the Islanders Flyers game, and the Flyers have to get in with a shootout win or something like that. But on Sunday, I don't know. I mean, I was there for that game. That was one of the craziest things I've ever been to. Every game I've covered was the Flyers beating the Rangers in that shootout to make it to the playoffs. And then
they only seem to win in shootouts like that too, like in shootouts that they shouldn't win, and they're a terrible shootout team.
I know, and the absolute. But when the chips have been down, when it absolutely have to win a shootout, they found ways to win shootouts. Like and that's not many, but that game was crazy because in that game, Paul Holmgren was the GM, Laviolette was the coach, and we were talking about press conferences after the game to talk about Laviolette being fired. And it was going through the press box like, oh yeah, they're gonna hold a press conference afterwards that Holmgren and Laviolette have been let go if they don't make the playoffs and and then 3 months from then we were in game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals. So it was just crazy how you watch that shootout and that whole thing developed.
And we talked about their goalies then, and we still talk about their goalies now. So they've never solved the problem.
No, they didn't. Now they're just injuries. I mean, these are injuries. Those were all healthy goalies.
It's a little bit different.
They were all healthy, but no one knew who the hell should be playing. That was crazy. Now they've got two really good goalies who are both hurting.
Think how much they would really like to have Michael Leighton right now.
Oh, God.
I'm sure he's available.
I still can't believe he was the starting goalie in the Stanley Cup Final. That's wild.
Here's something you'll never believe, but it's true, I promise. In my apartment, we have Brian Boucher's pads from the 2010 playoffs.
Seriously?
Why do you have them?
We have his pads in this apartment.
But why? How did you get your hands on them?
He sold them to somebody, and then we got them. So my roommate has them. So yeah.
That is awesome.
Cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Has the funk worn off of them? Like,
yes,
are they no longer?
God.
Yeah.
Well, It just smells like a comeback. It's awful. It just smells like a comeback.
Yeah, I was gonna say for you guys, it probably isn't.
There is something called Febreze that works now. So.
Well, the first thing I did was I grabbed them. I was like, these are the pads that Mark Savard scored that game-1 goal on. And then they were like, yeah, and they lost that series. I'm like, yes, but still, that happened.
That happened. Yep.
And that's the glory of the NHL playoffs.
Absolutely.
I'll never forget the injury in that series, the Krejci injury, because I was in game. I remember sitting in Game 3 of that series, and watching, the Bruins. The Bruins were just rolling on the Flyers for the first 2 games, and then they were rolling in Game 3. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there, and I'm sitting there with Cap Neo at the press box, and we're just like, well, this is going to be a quick playoffs. We're going to be this is kind of crazy. And then Krejci goes down. When Mike Richards hits him at center ice, we watched this whole thing. He's hurt. And on that to me is the point the whole thing changed. That's when it all shifted, and that was just kind of nuts. And then
that's when you realize that the Boston Bruins will go as far as David Krejci takes them. That's when it became like an actual fact.
Yeah.
And that's been the underlying theme of the last couple of weeks, because last week when Boston was in Toronto, I observed Krejci, and I was sitting next to some of the Boston reporters, and I'm like, he doesn't look right. He doesn't look. He was playing against William Nylander, and William Nylander is a raw rookie, and he wasn't taking advantage of his defensive, inexperience, and didn't seem like he was at top speed. And I talked to one of the reporters, and they said, yeah, he's got to be hurt. They're not saying anything, but he's got to be hurt.
Yeah.
And that game, the only game that they've won during the streak, Bergeron and Chara scored the goals, and then they got an empty netter. So if you're depending on Bergeron, Marchand, and Chara to carry your offense, and Krejci's not giving you anything, you're in trouble. But I still think they're going to make it, and Detroit is not.
Yeah. Well, it's tough to say. I've kind of been leaning the other way, but on both teams, neither team. I was talking about neither team deserves to be in the playoffs. How you talk about playoff teams, neither team deserves to be. Minnesota for a while didn't deserve to be in the playoffs either, but now they've played pretty well. You wish there could be a president's override at the end of the year. New Jersey's played so friggin' well, and they've tried to throw them into the playoffs. Carolina, they've done. I mean, these teams have done everything they can. They just had a bad start, but both are playing better now than Boston or Detroit, so they should get into the playoffs. It's you're gonna have playoff teams that really aren't as good as some other teams that don't make the playoffs. But
the thing is that it would probably make the playoffs a little more interesting if you think about that, taking a hot team into the playoffs, or not even a hot team, but a team that was playing well, like the Devils, and you get rid of say Detroit manages to limp their way into the postseason.
Yeah, just get rid of them.
Far more interesting to see the Devils, right?
That's what I'm saying. The Batman should be able to decree it. I decree the Devils are in and the Red Wings are out, because the Red Wings are totally backed in, and that's it, and that should be the answer, That's how much. But I mean, because it really is it. I mean, and it's just true. Some teams are better than other teams right now, and right now in the East, there's really very few teams that are playing very well. In general, I mean, the whole Atlantic Division is odd. The Metro Division is better in that Pittsburgh is really starting to get it together. But and that was my third goalie point. Marc-Andre Fleury. I had this written down here. This is pretty good. He now has become the 4th goalie in NHL history. The 4th goalie in NHL history, the entire years in NHL, to have 7 35-win seasons. That's a pretty crazy stat. Marc-Andre Fleury, who's been much maligned, and people have have gone after him for years about the fact that he's,
Do you have the other 3?
I don't.
Okay.
But that's crazy.
I bet you the other 3, or most of the other 3, were pre-expansion, because they played 70 games a year.
Right. Brodeur is definitely.
Brodeur's probably in that list.
Brodeur's probably, he's probably one of them, right?
Brodeur and Patrick Waugh.
Brodeur and Waugh, and someone said it's not Lundqvist. I don't get this thing out. It's
maybe
actually Waugh didn't do it apparently, according to this.
Really? That's a surprising one.
All right, Brodeur had 12. Okay, 12 seasons like that. Okay, so 12 35-win seasons. That's pretty crazy. But the other goalies are kind of crazy. Ready for this?
Well,
You'll never get this. One is Mika Kiprusoff.
Wouldn't have guessed that one.
And the other is Eddie Belfour.
Kiprusoff did play 70 games a season for the final 8 years of his career.
Yeah, so Brodeur, Belfour, Kiprusoff, and Fleury.
Yeah.
There are 4.
Fleury surprises me. He seems so flaky almost. He never. I never would trust him in the playoffs.
And that's been.
I know he's won a cup, so don't everyone have my head. But that was how many years ago, and ever since he's just never really. He always seems to be consistently okay.
Most goaltenders are flaky. You're going to be like that when you have 100-mile-an-hour pucks being shot at you. So.
Yeah, but he's not the goalie I would expect to have that stat associated with him.
No, for sure. All right, let's get to our NHL draft simulator.
Do we want to run through these injuries quick?
Oh yes, I do. I'm sorry, I forgot that we had the talk about injuries. Sorry about that. Yes, definitely.
Travis Hamonic went down last night.
That's a biggie.
Over Columbus. He's out the rest of the regular season and then will be evaluated before the playoffs. I couldn't tell whether it was a knee or an ankle, but he crumpled after he with the Blue Jackets player, and it didn't look good. So I mean, that's bad news for the Islanders because without him, it's Boychuk and Leddy, and then a lot of guys who are unproven. So the other ones were David Perron of Anaheim is out 4 to 6 weeks with a separated shoulder, and goaltender Frederick Anderson is out with a concussion. There's no time limit on that, but if he's out for any significant time, that means Gibson is the number one because there was talk about them rotating the goalies between Anderson and Gibson even in the playoffs. But now
Gibson should be the number one, though. I mean, it's
not necessarily.
I know Anderson's played well, but
it would be unusual. But they've been throughout the second half of the season. They've been rotating these goalies one after the other. So if it's working, why not go with it, even if it's in the playoffs?
It's so rare that actually does take you through to a Stanley Cup, though. I mean, it's maybe Carolina. Carolina did to a degree with Cam Ward and Martin Gerber, remember? But at the end of the day, it was still Cam Ward playing 60-70% of the time. I mean, it was that was really. But Gerber. Oh, and then of course, I want to touch base on my article that I wrote today, which is what I heard was the backup plan from in terms of that if the goal they're decreasing the size and goalie equipment to try to get more scoring. But if that doesn't work, to limit the size of goalies in general. What are your thoughts?
It's a great sound effect. That's perfect, actually, for that. That's my exact thought.
I mean, think about it. 6 foot. It's just the bigger the goalie, the better the goalie, right? So it's just like
Not always, not. Or if they are their first season, usually by the second season they figure them out more or less.
Yeah, but a guy like Rene, even Steve Mason, or Tuukka Rask, they can go down on their knees and cover the whole top of the net, and that's
What are they trying to be the Rockettes and limiting people and who they can be? What?
Yeah, if you limit it to 6'3", which is what I heard, is there you go, 6'3".
Terrible idea. It's terrible and terrible.
Just leave the game alone. Just leave it alone.
I'm not saying a thing. I'm not saying a thing.
All right, let's go to the lottery simulator. Here we go. All right, picking a winner today. The winner is the Ottawa Senators. Next up, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then the Blue Jackets. So, there you have it.
Thank God the Oilers aren't in the top 3. That's all I got to say.
I know. I heard Mark Spector on XM today, and he's a Hockey Buzz friend. He's written stuff for us before, and he was saying that he didn't think they could get a third-round draft pick for Jakubov. There's a lot of people there's a lot of anti-Jakubov people. It's crazy. I just think that's nuts personally, but I don't know.
Well, listen, if Brett Connolly gets you 2 second-round picks, someone will pay $1 for Neil Jakubov.
I mean, Zach Ronaldo got a third-round pick, right?
You get assets back.
Yeah, I mean, Ronaldo got a third?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but look who traded for him.
But so Jakubov's not going to get you a third? I don't understand that at all. That doesn't make any sense to me. No. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Have a great weekend. By the end of this weekend, we will know something. Hopefully, maybe.
No, we won't.
We won't. You're right. Without the buzz, it's just hockey. We'll see you Monday.